Strap into your seats and get ready. It's time for the Mortarpod.
Hey everybody, Alex from SeemsGoodMagic.com here. Welcome to this week's episode of the Mortarpod. The Mortarpod is your weekly video podcast where I present to you with a custom magic set based on movies, TV shows, books, based on your suggestions or my personal preferences. I've added the custom magic sets section to SeemsGoodMagic.com, so you can check out the website now, click on that link and see every previous week's custom magic set as well. I've also added a link to travelersofstoria.com, the website for my board game. I just got done with the proof for the actual encounter mat for the game, so I'm looking forward to that. I still have to do some work with the boxes and find some distributors for the cards, but I'm really hoping to have the Kickstarter for the game available over the next few months here. So I'm still hard at work at that. The game is absolutely done. It's just the tedious process of finding distributors. And trust me, it's not a fun process, but when this is all done, I will have copies of the game available, and I'm looking forward to that because I think you guys will really love it if you're a fan of Magic the Gathering, which you should be if you're listening or watching to this podcast. Okay, so this week it's a pretty good one. I'm excited about this one. So Star Wars, good movie, right? How about Spaceballs? Yeah, Spaceballs is a Star Wars spoof film done by Mel Brooks, master of comedy for decades. And Spaceballs is a great movie. It's got Bill Pullman in it, and John Candy, Rick Moranis, Mel Brooks himself. Very funny movie. It's it's just, like I said, spoof film on Star Wars. And, we follow Lone Star, who's who's played by Bill Pullman, who is sort of the renegade Han Solo character of the film. And, let's get into it. I'll go card by card, and I'll sort of go through the plot of the film. So, the first card is Spaceball 1, which is how the movie opens. The movie opens, you see this absolutely enormous ship that it takes like a full 2 minutes for you to pan by the entire ship. So it's kind of going by the movie screen, and it takes like minutes. That's how big it is. So it starts to just get ridiculous how long it takes to pan the entire ship because it's so big. So I definitely had to make the card very powerful for that reason. So Spaceball 1, which is the name of the ship, is an 11 mana legendary artifact creature. It's a 10/10 flying trample. It has 2 activated abilities. One is for 4 mana. Spaceball 1 deals 2 damage to target creature or player, so the laser cannons that would be on it. And then 1 mana, target creature must attack this turn if able, and that one is the tractor beam, which it does use in the film. So, enormous ship, very powerful. After it's done panning the ship, you see on the back it's got a big bumper sticker that says, "We break for nobody." So, next shot is inside Spaceball 1, and you're introduced to Colonel Sanders. Not Colonel Sanders from KFC, but Colonel Sanders of Spaceball 1. So, Colonel Sanders is 1 colorless and 2 black for a 3/2 legendary human soldier creature. He's a rare, and he has 2 abilities as well. He's a interesting take on the lords like the Goblin Kings and all that. So Colonel Sanders has black creatures you control with power greater than Colonel Sanders' power have Intimidate, and black creatures you control with power 2 or less get +1/+1. So he buffs the guys that are littler than him, and the guys that are bigger than him intimidate him. So they have Intimidate. He's one of the main characters of the film, one of the main antagonists, and he provides comic relief for Dark Helmet, played by Rick Moranis, and President Scroob, played by Mel Brooks. And funny character, but you're introduced to him right away, and then you're almost immediately introduced to Rick Moranis' character Dark Helmet, a clear spoof on Darth Vader. And Dark Helmet's hilarious because it's Rick Moranis, who's already a little man, but he's got this helmet that is just absolutely enormously big. It's got to be like 3 times bigger than Darth Vader's helmet, which I just found was really funny. So Dark Helmet is 3 colorless, a blue, and 2 black for a 4/5 mythic human soldier legend. And he has the mechanic of the set, which is called Schwartz. So much like the Force in Star Wars, Spaceballs has the Schwartz, which is essentially the same thing as the Force. So if you remember the Force from Star Wars, it's kind of like a telekinetic ability, also like a mind control ability at some point. But I focused on the sort of telekinetic properties of the Force. So the Schwartz is 3 colorless, and tap or untap target non-land permanent. If that permanent's converted mana cost is 3 or less, you may return it to its owner's hand instead. Activate this ability only once each turn. So I wanted something that, was definitely telekinesis, but also didn't require you to tap the creature to use it. But I also wanted to limit it so you couldn't use it, a ton of times per turn, since it is a powerful effect. So Dark Helmet also has, whenever you activate Dark Helmet's Schwartz ability, target opponent loses 2 life. So kind of a nice ability mashup. He's a 4/5 as well, so pretty powerful creature. So Dark Helmet is still not the most powerful. The next most powerful, the most powerful character of the antagonists would be President Scroob, the next card we're going to take a look at. And I guess President Scroob is kind of like the analog to Emperor Palpatine, though very different in this film. So President Scroob is 2 colorless and 3 black for a mythic human legend, and he's a 2/3. And he has an activated ability of 3 black. Creatures target opponent controls get -1/-1 until end of turn. And whenever a creature an opponent controls dies, its controller loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. So pretty powerful ability, admittedly. But he's very color intensive. He's a mythic legend. And he's a 2/3 for 5, so still very killable. 1 mana Lightning Bolt will take care of him. But if he manages to activate that ability a couple times a turn, I'm sure it can do some pretty devastating stuff. And President Scroob is played by Mel Brooks, and he's kind of a womanizer, and his ability itself is actually based on the fact that he steals air from planets. So instead of like the Death Star that destroys planets, he just uses his ship turns into a maid, and then the maid has a vacuum cleaner that sucks the air out of planets. So sucking the air out of the planet, causes people to be unable to breathe. So that's where I got his activated ability from, if you were curious about that. So next we have Vespa, the Druish princess, based on the Jewish princess, which, if you don't know what a Jewish princess is, I believe it has to do with if Jewish princesses, I think it's kind of like a spoiled Jewish girl, I believe. I actually don't know, but that's what the Druish princess is referring to. So Vespa is from Druidia, and she is the princess of that planet. So therefore, she is a Druish princess. So Vespa, the Druish princess, is 2 green for a 2/3 legendary human creature. She's a rare. She can't be blocked by more than 1 creature, and you can pay 1 green, and target creature must block Vespa, the Druish princess, this turn if able. Her flavor text is, "Now you hear this, whoever you are. You will not touch my luggage, and furthermore, I want this pigsty cleaned up. I will not be rescued in such filth." So she kind of belittles the Bill Pullman's character Lone Star, who rescues her. And I just thought it was very funny that she would do that, since she just got rescued by him. So yes, 2 mana, 2/3, kind of like a lure effect on her. And very, very funny character in the film. The actress did a great job. And she has some Rambo moments towards the end, which I thought was funny as well. So she is forced to marry Prince Valium at the beginning of the film. Not Prince Valiant, Prince Valium. So Prince Valium, another card that I made, and he's, as you might expect on somebody who would be on Valium, constantly falling asleep. So Prince Valium is 1 and a green for a 1/2 mythic legendary human creature. He enters the battlefield tapped and doesn't untap during your untap step. And at the beginning of your pre-combat main phase, add 1 colorless and 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. So a double ramp spell, much like Lotus Cobra, hence the mythic quality to him. But he enters tapped and he never untaps. So you have to come up with some means, possibly the Schwartz, to untap him. But there's no real need. His real purpose is just at the during your pre-combat main phase, he gives you 2 additional mana to use. So still a very valuable card. Just can't block or attack for you, and is, subject to removal, of course. Not a super important character in the film per se, but I thought he was a funny enough character that I wanted to include him in the set. So next we have Dot Matrix, voiced by Joan Rivers. And Dot Matrix is the C-3PO of this film. In fact, she looks almost identical to C-3PO, except with a more womanly figure. So Dot Matrix is 4 colorless for a 3/3 rare legendary artifact construct creature. Whenever a creature you control becomes the target of a spell or ability, put a Virgin alarm counter on Dot Matrix, and then you pay 3 colorless and remove a Virgin alarm counter from Dot Matrix, and target creature you control gains hexproof until end of turn. So in the film, Dot Matrix is sort of the protector to Vespa, and at one point Vespa is going to kiss Lone Star, and Dot Matrix has this little computer screen on her chest that says Virgin Alarm. It starts just flashing it when they're about to kiss, so she gets up and protects Vespa. So that is what the her abilities are referencing, the Virgin Alarm on her chest that flashes. Next we have Eagle 5 Winnebago. So instead of the Millennium Falcon, Lone Star and his navigator Barf are in space in a Winnebago. Yes, an RV, a recreational vehicle in space. So I had to make a card for that. Eagle 5 Winnebago is a 6 mana legendary artifact creature. It's a 4/4 flying creature, and it has an activated ability of 1 colorless. Exile Eagle 5 Winnebago, return it to the battlefield at the beginning of the next end step. So it does have light speed capabilities on it, so that's why you can exile it and then return it. It's able to get away from combat before it can be stopped. So yes, a Winnebago going light speed. I love how it's like, if you look at the picture for viewers, it's not even like airtight. So I don't know how it keeps the vacuum of space out of there, but I like it. Next we have Barf, Eagle 5 Navigator. So played by John Candy, and Barf is a Mog. Not a Mog from Final Fantasy, but a Mog half-man, half-dog character. So he's 1 red, a white, and a blue for a 3/4 mythic legendary human hound creature. Love that creature type. It worked out perfect since he's a human dog creature. And then he has, whenever you pay 2 or more mana to activate an ability of an artifact, Barf Eagle 5 Navigator deals 1 damage to target creature or player. So he's good with artifacts since he's the navigator of the Winnebago. And he also has 2 colorless, target artifact creature you control gets +1/+1 until end of turn. And then his flavor text, of course, is, I'm a Mog, half man, half dog. I'm my own best friend. So very funny character. Excellent performance by John Candy. Very funny. And he does some dog-like things throughout the film, like whining and yipping. And he also has a tail that tends to get him in trouble with the ladies. Very mischievous tail. Next we have Lone Star the Prophesized. So this is Bill Pullman's Han Solo character. And he's 3 colorless, a blue and a red for a 4/4 mythic human legend. And he also has the Schwartz ability, which he doesn't even find out he has until later. But he definitely is. He's called the Prophesized because he's actually a long-lost prince. He didn't even realize he was a prince, but he has a necklace that later, when it's translated, it finds out that he is actually a prince. So he also has the Schwartz at his disposal. And whenever you activate Lone Star, the prophesized Schwartz ability, it gets +1/+1 and gains first strike until end of turn. So very good ability mashup, but he is a mythic. And yes, very powerful for sure. And picture, of course, him using his lightsaber ring, except he has it right over his crotch. So looks very phallic, which is very funny. So make sure to check that out. SeemsGoodMagic.com if you want to see the picture on that and you're a listener. Okay, next we have Pizza the Hut. So it turns out after you're introduced to Barf and Lone Star that they've actually borrowed money from a mob boss named Pizza the Hut, based of course on Jabba the Hutt and Pizza Hut. What a genius mashup this is. So Pizza the Hut is a human mutant creature. He costs 3 colorless, a black and a green. He's a 3/5 mythic. At the beginning of each opponent's end step, tap all untapped lands that player controls. And then he has tap, add 3 colorless to your mana pool. So excellent ramper, but he's tapping down your opponent's lands because think of it like he's extorting money from them or loan sharking them money. So it turns out they owe him 100,000 space bucks, but because they haven't paid him in a reasonable amount of time, it's actually multiplied to 1 million space bucks. So they're desperate for work to pay back Pizza the Hut. Otherwise, Pizza the Hut's going to send ships after them to shoot them out of the space. So you can see from the picture that Pizza the Hut is a gross-looking pizza mutant creature. And apparently he is half human, half pizza. So he is, in fact, a human creature somewhere down inside of that gross mass of pizza. And he's voiced by Dom DeLuise, who also does a great job as the mobster. Kind of a small role, but I definitely wanted to include Pizza the Hut as a card. Too funny to pass up. Okay, next we have Yogurt the Magnificent, yet another character played by Mel Brooks. And he is a dink creature, which is based on the Jawas from Star Wars. If you remember the little Jawa creatures that, man those desert... what are those sandcrawler sort of pieces of machinery that go across the desert and sell droids. So Yogurt the Magnificent is 3 colorless, a green, a white, and a blue for a mythic dink mystic creature. He's a legend, and he's a 2/4. Yogurt actually is, of course, based on Yoda, who is not a Jawa, so they just sort of started taking some liberties in the film, which is fine. It doesn't matter. It's a spoof film. They can do whatever they want. But Yogurt's the one who eventually makes Lone Star realize that he does, in fact, have the Schwartz ability. So Yogurt has Schwartz himself, of course, and whenever you activate Yogurt the Magnificent's Schwartz ability, draw a card. So when you're first introduced to Yogurt, everybody's heard of him, so he already has a reputation in the galaxy or the universe, and they all systematically start going through his credits. Yogurt the Wise, Yogurt the Magnificent, and then Yogurt responds with, please, please, don't make a fuss. Around here, I'm just plain Yogurt. I always loved that line. Very clever, very funny. And Yogurt also goes off on a tangent, which I assume is totally based on the fact that George Lucas got all of his commercial rights to sell products for Star Wars. Yogurt talks about merchandising Spaceballs, so they break the fourth wall constantly in the film. And he's saying he's going to merchandise out Spaceballs stuff. So he has like Spaceballs toilet paper, Spaceballs breakfast cereal, and then of course Spaceballs flamethrowers. So it's like stuff that's completely unrelated to Spaceballs has products as well. So very funny scenes with that. Next, we have Comb the Desert. This is a really funny scene in the film as well. So while President Scroob and Dark Helmet and Colonel Sanders and Spaceball 1 are hunting for Lone Star and Vespa, they come to Yogurt's planet and they're searching for him. So President Scroob tells them to comb the desert, which if you hear comb the desert, it just means, search around the desert for people. But Dark Helmet takes it literally, so he brings these giant combs out there and they begin to brush the desert looking for people. So this is the classic scene where he's going to each of the groups of soldiers and asking them if they found anything. And eventually, um, one group, I would just say look up that scene. Go up and type in "Comb the Desert Spaceballs" into YouTube and watch that. I don't want to swear on this podcast because there is a bit of swearing. So go ahead and check that scene out because it's really funny. So "Comb the Desert" is 2 colorless of black, sorcery. It's a common. And target player reveals the top 4 cards of his or her library. Put all creature cards revealed this way into that player's graveyard. Then put the rest on top of that player's library in any order. And then the flavor text is, "Found anything yet? Nothing yet, sir." So, very funny. And the picture, you can see 2 soldiers with a, actually, considering it's a giant comb, it's actually a pretty small comb. It's one of those, I think, afro combs, or one of those ones you stick in your afro. And then finally, we have ludicrous speed. So Spaceball 1, trying to catch up to Eagle 5. Eagle 5 gets away going light speed, so Spaceball 1 has a speed called ludicrous speed. And ludicrous speed is so fast that they start, I guess, bending space and time into a plaid color, which is kind of funny. So ludicrous speed is 1 colorless, a blue and a red. It's a sorcery, it's a rare. Creatures you control gain haste and can't be blocked this turn. Whenever a creature you control attacks this turn, it deals 2 damage to you. So, had to have some sort of backlash punishment, since 3 mana to make all of your guys unblockable is quite good. So, as long as you have enough life, though, maybe all your guys are unblockable, and giving them haste at a reasonably low cost, you could play some creatures and get in unblockable. So, still a pretty powerful spell, but your creatures do end up punishing you along the way, so kind of a trade-off you have to make. But, yeah, so... And then the flavor text, of course, Spaceball 1. They've gone to plaid. So definitely recommend checking out Spaceballs. That's it for this week. Hope you've been tuning into Twitch. I've been going through Resident Evil Remastered, and I've been using no guides on that. I've also started Fate Reforged pre-release drafts, so I hope you've been enjoying those. I've only done 2 drafts so far, so I hardly know the set yet. But I can assure you I'm going to play enough to figure it all out. And I hope you enjoy it along the way. So thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you next week for the next podcast.